friends, welcome back. I'm so glad to see you. Today I want to talk to you about something that I think is really interesting and something that I get a lot of questions about. You may not know that I actually teach anatomy classes too, and when I teach the topic of skin, a lot of people have questions about wrinkles and where do wrinkles come from, how can we prevent them, and maybe how can we actually treat them. So we're going to talk about that today. So before we begin our talk on wrinkles, I want to say that personally I believe most of what is beautiful about a person is inside of them. But suffice it to say that people do like to think about what's going on with their outward appearance too, which I think is important as well. So we need to think about what are wrinkles and where do wrinkles come from. This will be a two-part series, so we're going to talk today about what are wrinkles, how are they caused, and then next time when we come back we'll talk about how can we maybe prevent some of those wrinkles and actually maybe get rid of some of those wrinkles. So what are some of the techniques that will do that? So today we'll focus on what causes them. So before we think about wrinkles, we need to think about what the skin actually is made out of, and the skin is made up of 3 different layers. So there's the top layer. This top layer is very thin, and that's the one on the top. That's called the epidermis. That means outside. And the epidermis is what you actually see on your skin. The middle layer is the biggest layer of the skin. That's the dermis, and that's got all the good blood vessels that supply the epidermis. It's got the hair follicles you can see. It's also got the oil glands, which help to keep the skin soft too. So the dermis is the biggest chunk of what our skin is made out of. It's also got some really good elastic fibers and collagen fibers, which help to make our skin sort of bouncy. The very bottom layer of the skin is the hypodermis, and that hypodermis is mostly made up of adipose tissue, which is fat, and that fat is very good for cushioning and protecting. So when we think about wrinkles, what's actually happening is we have creases and folds within the skin that we actually see on that outer layer of the epidermis, and those creases and folds are caused by different things, and we're going to talk about what some of those things are. So when we think about what causes wrinkles, there's 4 main things that cause wrinkles, but when we think about our bodies in general, we think about the idea that nature and nurture go together. So this idea that most things that are going on in our bodies are made up of the genes, which are the nature part, but also it's what do we do to those genes? What type of environment do we put them in? That's the nurture part of this. So wrinkles fall into this category perfectly. So like I said, 4 different categories that we're going to put things into that cause the wrinkles. The first thing we have is general aging, which everyone goes through. We also have repeated facial expressions, which we'll talk about. And we have 2 things that we can control. So our exposure to UV, so the ultraviolet light from the sun, and then also our exposure to cigarette smoke, which we can control as well. So if we think about the first one I mentioned was general aging. So as we age, when we think about what's going on with our skin, some major things that are happening are in the middle here. Remember we said the dermis, that middle layer, is made up of some collagen fibers and elastic fibers. These actually break down over time and become less stretchy. So a good example of what this looks like is this. So we have 2 different hair bands. We've got white and purple. The white is going to represent what the young person elasticity would look like, and the purple would be the long stretched out version of this. So when you're young, you can stretch this out and it's going to come back to the right shape. When you're young, your fibers will do that in your dermis, but when you're old, you stretch them out and they don't ever come back to where they started. So that's the problem that you face, is that you lose this elasticity in the middle there. You also, with general aging, become drier with your skin. And then the last thing with general aging for your skin is that you lose some of this cushiony fat layer on the bottom. And when you do that, things start to compress and you start to be able to see these creases and folds within those wrinkles. So that's general aging. We said second would be the repeated facial expressions. So if you think about the different things that you do with your face all the time, there's facial muscles that are controlling that. So smiling, right, causes wrinkles. You get the wrinkles around your eyes or wrinkles around your mouth. Those are called the crow's feet. We have frowning, right? Frowning gives you your frown lines there. And then you have squinting. So if you're squinting to look in the sun or looking at a piece of paper, that's going to cause those crow's feet as well. So that would be repeated facial expressions that cause trouble. With the issue with repeated facial contractions is that those muscles, they create little curves or contours that end up becoming permanent lines within your face. So that leads to the wrinkles over time. What's interesting about them is that I don't actually think that's such a bad thing. Those wrinkles sometimes tell a story about a person, whether they've been very happy or very sad. So I like to think I don't have very many frown lines because I haven't frowned very much, but I smiled a lot, so I have a lot of good crow's feet. And one of my favorite lines from Jimmy Buffett, who I love, is from Barefoot Children in the Rain. He says, "Wrinkles only go where smiles have been." So I totally agree with that. So I think that's okay. When we think about the third cause of wrinkles, we said UV. So ultraviolet light is also the cause of that. What ultraviolet light does, in addition to causing mutations and leading to skin cancers, also leads to premature photoaging of the skin. Essentially what's happening is that dermis is breaking down, the connective tissue that's present here is breaking down as well. So that causes the wrinkles, again, to indent and form within the skin. So UV is a problem as well. The last cause, a major cause of wrinkles that people face is cigarette smoke. So we all know cigarette smoke is terrible for multiple reasons, different types of cancers, but not only that, it actually causes constriction of these little blood vessels up here, and when you constrict these little blood vessels up here, you're not feeding the skin with the actual oxygen that you need, so you have premature lines and wrinkles that form in people that are smokers due to that lack of oxygen that's present there. So suffice it to say that wrinkles can be caused by multiple things, right? Things that you control, things that you don't control. And again, everything is going to be combinations of your genes and your environment. So next time what we're going to talk about is ways that we can actually prevent wrinkles, which is probably the best thing that you can do, and then ways you can actually treat wrinkles that are already there. So that's something to look forward to next time. You should not be scared of wrinkles. They show you who you are. They show you that you've had a happy life, lived a long, happy life, hopefully. And next time we'll look at ways that you can prevent and hopefully, again, get rid of some of those wrinkles if you are worried about them, not that you should be. Remember, beauty is from within. That's the most important thing. I look forward to seeing you next time.